Thanks for having me, ladies.
We are delighted to have you. You're one of my most talented friends and somebody that I really admire. So, you are the director of Sugarbabies. You are a documentary film director. You've probably answered this question 100,000 times. When did you decide to make Sugarbabies? How did it all come together?
Basically, I made this documentary introducing Selma Blair. We had a great experience with that film, and the producers of that film were like, go find another story. And I was like, you don't just find another story overnight. But I did start to think about what did I want to do right now? And there was a couple of things floating around. One was making a documentary about the Greek system in America, which I did. And the other one was, what is the 2021 at the time version of kids? What does it mean to be a young woman in 2021? Could I find my sort of 1990s kids version of that? But could I leave the coastal cities and could I find teenagers in America? And I set out to look for teenagers. And I have been fascinated with this period in life since I was a teenager. And I think I have had a lot of experience. I mean, Fiona, I think you have had an experience with that with me. I just have been curious about what life is like now. And so I started working with a story producer. So we were scouring the internet. And I was like, no one has the grit I'm looking for. I was looking for Chloe Sevigny, And so I started to do my own research on my iPhone and started to go on TikTok. And I discovered the online phenomenon of being a sugar baby. And I said to the story producer, we need to find sugar babies. And she came back and she was like, I found a really interesting young woman. So I looked at Autumn Johnson's TikTok and I was just floored by her. And I was like, I need to meet this girl ASAP. We set up a Zoom call. I'm not exaggerating or being dramatic when I say that within 10 seconds of her arrival on our Zoom call, I was like, you are compelling. And you are so fascinating, and I must meet you immediately. There was I had this sense that behind this Zoom screen was a young woman who contained multitudes and an entire world. And I think I was right. And I met her. I met all of her friends. We started filming in June of 2021. We finished filming in November of 2023.
3 years full on. Almost 4.
Yes, 3 years full on, and then another year editing. So we finished the film in June of 2024.
All of your work, there's so much intimacy. Introducing Selma, you were with her for those years. Bama Rush, you were with those people with those years. There's so much intimacy. What was it like being with this young woman, Autumn, for all those years?
They did not open up to me at first. They were presenting to me, I think, the version of themselves that they thought that I wanted. And I could really feel that. And I was a little bit like, ugh. I was coming off of Selma, who was A, an actress, and B, in this extremely vulnerable state in her life that she was just like, I have no other choice but to just show you who I am. And these young kids were less willing to be intimate with me. But it was a challenge that I was willing to take on. And I just started to go back. And I think what happened, I started out to be this sort of bougie lady from New York who showed up with her film crew in a very inappropriate, large SUV. The second time we went down, I was like, you can never get that car again. And so we got rid of the Escalade. And just to be clear, this is a very low budget film, but we had an inappropriate car for the film we were making. And so we started driving a minivan and we kept coming back. And I think because we kept coming back, they were like, wait, you're for real into us. And you care about who we are. And so the first couple trips down, it was a little, but then I think the tipping point, if you remember in the film, we go on this canoe trip and they stay overnight in an Airbnb. And I actually shot all of that stuff from the water park into the canoe trip, not the beautiful shots of them diving into the water. I had a full crew for that. We didn't have the budget for me to stay. And I said to the producers, I was like, we're not done. We need to get to the canoe trip. And they had they were kids, so they were like, "We're going 5 hours away," even though the river started in Louisiana. We drove 5 hours to Arkansas. The car broke down. It was crazy, but I stayed with them. That is how I believe they started to really open up to me. It's just continuing to show up and being like, "Hi, I'm here." You see, they smoke pot, and they were very nervous about that in the beginning. The boys called me Miss Rachel, because you don't say to an adult, they're
Rachel.
proper Southern kids,
Yeah. Back to your producer who found her, like, what online presence did she have that, like, compelled her to you guys? Like, in the Zoom, like, what was that compelling nature?
She's just, I don't know. It was like there's something about her. She was funny. She was in on the joke,
Mm.
like she was like, I feel like we all have witnessed a lot of fake personas. She was in on the joke. And also like she is Robin Hood. She was stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Like she wasn't even charging for her sugar baby courses online at first. Someone was like, you have these tips and people would pay you to give us these tips. And so she was like, oh, I guess I could charge for my class. And so it was just this authenticity, which is a very overused word, but I was like, she's a real one. And she
Mm.
was also trying to actually be of service. She was like, I know some way where all y'all who don't have any money can make some money, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. And I was like, you are a diamond in a sea of
I thought about
cubic.
that in the film because I was like, wow, she got real busy helping people. And I didn't put two and two together that she wasn't getting paid at first, at least.
At first, yeah.
Hmm.
She just wanted to help because she saw how much people were suffering around her.
The way Autumn approaches being a sugar baby is a little different than traditional sex work. And I know it's not sex work, and that's part of bigger discussion about sugar babies. They never physically were with their sugar daddies, I guess. What do you call it? How do you think about that?
Yeah. So, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this story and the film. And I asked Autumn the last time I interviewed her, I said, do you identify as a sex worker? And she said, I do not, even though the work that she does is sexy and sexual in nature in terms of sexting and talking and sending alluring photos that could be deemed as sexy. She does not sell her body, or she believes she trades her time. And so what the job of an online sugar baby is actually cultivating that relationship with a man on the phone and being like, hey, love, how you doing, love? And talking to them, good morning, good afternoon, how's work? It's her time that she is selling. But it's also like, if you sort of open up the hood of the car, it really like shows you so much about like a human need for connection and like belonging and like the enormous loneliness that people are faced with, right? It's like there's so much to unpack in like the realm of sex work. And I think our film, because it has sort of a salacious title, leads you to believe that this is a movie about girls going on dates and like doing things with men. Now, Autumn, I don't want to create any spoilers for the people out there that one day might watch this film. Autumn's business progresses, so she ends up trading or selling her time. But in terms of like going and hanging out with a gentleman in the afternoon, having a lunch, having a dinner, she goes to those lengths to make the money, but she maintains that she doesn't like sell sexual acts with her body.
We were talking about on our last interview about how people, remember we were talking about how like online presences are like so much of your persona.
Mhm.
And so like as a sugar baby of like a younger teenage age, I feel like a lot of people in my world, like I am judged by what I have online or like what people I know online. So how do you think that they have experienced an online persona differently as sugar baby?
Yeah. Well, one thing I think is really important is, well, when I met Autumn, she was 18, so she was a consenting adult.
Mm.
And the other thing is that her and her friends have been living on their own since they were 16. Like they were not like living at home. They found other places to live. They had waitressing jobs. Their parents had them when they were super young. Like the expectation that they were going to be like handheld through like college or something was not even an option. So for all intents and purposes, they were adulting, and their community is also extremely, this is like very surprising. Their community right around them is like extremely progressive. You hear the accent, you see the environment, and you make a lot of assumptions about these kids. They are not. They are like, I won't use the W word because it's loaded, but they are very much members of an open-hearted society where everyone belongs and has value. On the contrary, right outside of their immediate community is extreme Christian right. Their online persona was deeply judged by some of their more external family members, but their internal crew, including her mom and dad, were like, go off, girl, get that coin.
Do you think
They
it's
were
an age
like,
thing because they were the younger that they were more progressive? Because I have this stat in my mind that younger men are leaning right now, but
mm.
not the younger men in this crew, it sounds like. The boyfriend, there was
Yeah, they're very open to all different kinds. There's, gay, lesbian, bisexual members of their like immediate circle. There's queer people in their lives. They do not, I'll talk broadly because I don't want to like speak for them, but many of them do not believe in police violence and brutalities. They stand up for all colors of the LGBTQ plus world. They're extremely open-minded in that realm, in a world, and just around them is like super, super conservative. And like they watched people vote against their best interests. The minimum wage in Louisiana is so low. And you see in the film, like the Republican majority in that state would not allow them to raise the minimum wage, anything.
They're hyper aware of that, you're saying. They're
So aware. Yes, they were judged, but they didn't care.
Yeah.
And she still doesn't there was a Yahoo News article. The film is polarizing, right? So it's a really interesting experience for me as an artist to like make something, these last two films, Bama Rush and Sugarbabies, where people were mad about it and came for me. And like Autumn is so funny. When the Bama like kids were angry about that film, Autumn was like, let me get at them. She's like, I'm going to get on my phone and start. And then when we had so there was a Yahoo News article about the film, 1,500 comments. Like it really creates like a dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Some people were saying some really nasty stuff. And Autumn was just like, oh, they don't get it.
What I was saying is that so many people my age base their life on their online persona, but it feels like that is exactly the opposite of what's happening with this group because real problems of their lives are in front of them, and this online whatever is just like not a side, it's like a lot of their life.
It's a hustle.
It's a hustle, yeah. It's not about what it is for a lot of people.
It's like us older, I'm much older than you, Rachel, but we take it all very seriously. Like, oh my God, there's a comment. Whereas I feel like your age knows that's digital, whatever, and this is real life. You know what I mean? Like they know more than they're much more.
Or they don't. I don't know.
Or they don't. I don't know. Because some of them are super online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Do you think they would have to eventually move to real sex work to keep going? Is there a continuum? Like as you've been in these, just, after a while, you just have to stop because the digital thing isn't going to work anymore. Because I feel like some of those guys were really trying to get them to get on a plane and come see them.
Definitely. The real crux of the online sugar baby proposition, operation, whatever you want to call it, is that it is a 24-hour job. Imagine you're dating a narcissist and they want constant attention, but that narcissist that needs constant attention is also paying your bills. And so you have to wake up and deal. And, as Haley says, I was telling one guy that I had a kid that I had to go to school. I was telling the guy that I went to school that I had to pick up my kid and it just got too much. So I just got a real job. And so she started out waitressing. Then she got a job at what she says is like being a sugar baby. She's like, because you kind of, you dress up cute. It's like scamming men. And then she became a house cleaner. Most recently, which is our update, which we're going to probably figure out a way before we have a distribution plan, like open up the film, not to skip too far ahead. But the whole idea of the movie is I want to leave home and I can't leave home. It's so hard to leave. We set up all the ways in which they're trying to leave and try to make money and the way the system is against them. They're so smart. And what happened with these girls? is that the online sugar baby thing just became too much. Autumn has one guy that still gives her $100 a month, and that's to make sure she can make her rent. Most recently, and we're talking a month ago, she got a job in Houston, Texas, took her sister and moved to Texas. They got out. They got out.
A big update.
It's a big update. It's like open up the film. She got a job. Her sister got a job. Her and Mighty are back together, the boyfriend, and he's working on moving there too.
They seem so sweet.
I do feel like, not to in any way say that I had something to do with it, but I do think the experience of going to Sundance, like, it was such a big deal. Haley and Mighty, they had never been on an airplane before. So they had never been on an airplane. Autumn had. Three of them get on an airplane. They fly to Park City, Utah, to Sundance, and had the time of their lives. And Haley was like, I'm inspired by me. It was a really huge experience for them to see themselves on screen like that. And again, like, I'm in no way taking credit for this, but I do think the experience of seeing yourself in that way. And I worked with so many different emotional cores of the film. One was, I feel worthless. I want to feel worthy. The other one was, I feel invisible. I want to be seen. And I feel like the film really allowed them to feel seen. So they're out of there. That she actually sent me the cutest video. Like, when I went to see them right in December, right before Christmas, I screened the film for them. And it was an amazing experience. And they loved it. And they were like, wow, you told the real story of who we are. And that's the highest compliment you can get. This is just us in the parking lot.
It's incredible.
That's such an amazing moment.
They were so scared. They thought that it was going to be some weird reality television thing. They were like, whoa.
You got deemed humankind.
Yes,
You're
totally.
a real person doing a good thing.
Well, one of the things, like, I think wealth is a very interesting idea, and money is a very interesting concept. And we see how much they're struggling to make the actual, like, physical material coin. But what they have that so many people don't have is connection and community.
Yeah.
They're thick as thieves. They talk every day. The mom calls all day. The dad calls all day. They're calling each other all day. They're meeting up every night. There are people who have gazillions of dollars who have no community and no connection. And these kids have that in spades. So it was a really interesting experience for me to really, like, look at value of things.
And also the idea of, like, liberal versus this, like, all these tropes, and they're not true. They're poor, rural, very open, and very community minded and very resilient. And then there's people that I know that are really progressive, but they're in front of a computer all day. They don't see people. Everything happens on, like, very disembodied kind of lives, whereas when I watched that film, I saw people, like, hanging out, like, just slow down. Like,
which is my number one anxiety about, like, this generation. I truly, truly do feel a lack of, even though I'm just entering, like, adulthood, like, I'm not a real adult, but I'm kind of am. Like, it's just like a lack of togetherness. In college, it's, we're all in dorms, but you can sustain yourself in your dorm room by yourself for days on end with your phone. It's like, that's a real option. And that did not used to be an option. Like, kids that were shy and wanted to do that literally had to go outside and go to the dining hall, and something had to happen. And it just doesn't happen anymore.
I feel that way with adults too. I mean, I think a lot of our peers, I have a lot of friends in my life that they're just not available. They're just really are very happy to be home watching shows or whatever, and just sort of, like, aestheticizing. Also, the terms of wealth and disparity, like that, I was listening to that woman, Louise Perry, who I'm oddly obsessed with, but she's amazing. But she talks about how, like, empowerment around sex work has really only empowered a very select few people. And most women don't reap the benefits of selling sex. Most women, it does not lead them down a road to wealth and self-esteem and security. But it does get you through nursing school.
It's interesting because, like, young adults in Sugar Babies, they could, I don't know, I got a note early on, like, oh, they're always driving around in cars. And I was like, that's what they do. there's not much to do in Reston. They're hanging out at each other's houses. They're driving around in cars. And I grew up on Long Island, as you both know. We drove around in cars. There was like not that much to do, but we were together, which I think is the thing that you're speaking to. And it's interesting. Like with Bama Rush, I watched it recently because we did a screening at University of Colorado at Boulder. And I was like, that timing's off. That's not good. I would have cut that. Da, 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 da. With Sugarbabies, it's whatever. It is what it is. Like it's done. And I think it's perfect in its imperfectness. But now that 5 months have passed since we premiered it and there's like these big life updates, I want to go back in. I want to get back in there and I want to show the world that these kids got out but there's nothing wrong with where they're from. It doesn't have any opportunity.
We could go on forever about the Sugarbabies, but what led you to become a documentarian?
Well, it was an accident. I didn't mean to. When people say that, and I'm like, you're lying. I heard someone say once, it was a compulsion. I had to do it. I'd be like, really? But I totally believe I've been a storyteller for as long as I can remember. In every single sort of iteration, and what kept me from becoming a film director is fear and perfectionism and not wanting to fail and financial insecurity and lack of belief in myself, low self-esteem. I'd gotten in my way so many different times. And I was in every iteration of my career, which is so circuitous. I started out producing experimental theater. Then I was like, wait, how am I going to actually pay my rent? No one even gets paid. Is this a hobby? Then I was like, I know I'm going to raise money for a nonprofit. Like that was also not lucrative. Then I was like, oh, I know. I'm going to produce independent film. And when I started producing independent film, I started producing a feature documentary about former Los Angeles gang members who'd become Hollywood paparazzi. This was before the iPhone. So it was like long lens photography, and they would print their photographs. And basically these gang members started having babies and were like, we can't be like gang members anymore. We need to get like a real job. And they used all their sort of gang member tactics to become paparazzi. And it was the summer Paris Hilton went to jail, and it was Britney Spears, and it was Nicole Richie, and we were going around town, and I had found all the money to make this film with this director and an editor. And I was so close to the process that I was like, wait a second, why is this so painful? And a person in my life at the time just said this one thing to me, which like really landed. And he just was like, I don't think you're a producer. I think you're a director. And I was like horrified because I was like, I am 26 years old. How am I going to change my career path? And that's funny because 26 is a young age. And so I was like, I want to be a writer and a director. I want to be an auteur. That is what I want to do. I want to like write quirky independent films and work with actors and etc. So I started taking these little screenwriting classes, and at the same time I started working for like a fashion brand, and it was just like I was facilitating someone else's vision at the same time as I was trying to start my own. And I had a couple of different lumps along that, like writing the screenplays, facilitating other people's visions, being afraid of not making any money, needing a day job. And then, I don't know, in 2015, I had written one script, and it started to get some traction. And I started making these session films. And then I started to film my friend Barbara and her boyfriend Stanley, who lived in Los Angeles and New York. And they were in a long distance relationship, and they swore by it. They're like, this is the only way to be. And I thought that was fascinating. So I was going to just film them in each of their respective cities, having a phone call 15 times a day, which is what they did. They'd talk on the phone 15 times a day when they were apart. But just little things like, hi. They don't even say hi. They're just like, oh, I watched on the news, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, click. And then I was like, this is my art film. And I was working on a commercial at the time with an editor. Sloan, I was like, Sloan, do you have like a lowly assistant who will take a look at my footage and maybe organize it and I can put it into some sort of short film? Basically, Sloan looked at the footage and she said, you're making a documentary. And I was like, oh. So then she was like, go get these things and bring them back, and I'm going to cut this for you. And I was like, okay, Oscar award winning editor. So we made
That's
that film together.
incredible. I forgot all about Barbara and Stanley. You've done
Yeah,
so it's only
I
been
like
10 years.
10
10
years.
years?
2015.
10 years.
10 years. So I made that short. And then right after that, I made a short about gefilte fish, which is a Passover classic. And it like did really well on the Jewish Film Festival circuit, if you want to check it out. And then we did this short called Ava and Bianca about my two friends, introducing Selma Blair, Bama Rush, and Sugarbabies. And I'm working on a film that will be done this year that I'm so excited about. But something awakened in me a couple of months ago where I was like, you are living the vision, but not fully. And that is, I want to write scripts, and I have a script. So I'm revising very slowly my script and writing a new one at the same time, because the full vision is not realized. And I've really learned through all of the various channels and spirits and other things that I have to continue to pursue, even though it feels scary and impossible, because literally impossible things have happened in my life.
Yeah.
I like that. I just said that the other day. It actually feels impossible, and I have to keep trying to do it.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting for me to hear people's like coming up stories. I can't even imagine turning 20 in 6 months. So it's just like things just like actually happen and you actually just like change. Like what? That's crazy. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
know.
And also that 26, I love that at 26, you were like, oh my, I'm so old. I can't
I
change.
know.
And I'm 53.
That's how I feel at 19.
She feels that now. I
No.
started my career at age 28. The current, what I do for my job, which is representation co and representing directors, I started at 28, and I thought I was so behind everybody. Everybody had already come out of college and gotten that receptionist job. And now they were a something, a producer, a this, a that, at like a place, and they
Yeah.
were 28 and they had a little apartment. And I was nowhere near that. But now
No.
it seems like a perfectly fine time.
I'm on both sides of like the existential crisis at all times, because I also feel like there's a story that I wasted so much time being afraid. And like my peers were making documentaries when they were 33 and I made my first feature at 40. And oh my God, I wasted all this time. On the other side of that existential coin, I'm like, there's only one day. I didn't make it up, but one day at a time. There's only today. And every single thing in my life that happened prior to the moment that we made that film or the Bama Rush, I needed that moment to become the storyteller that told that story. I'm working on something right now that's like deeply personal, and it's about my family, and it is edgy AF because of the political climate. And my friend who's helping me kind of put it together is like, you really stepped into some shit with this one. But I feel ready for it,
And that's where
but
like the magic happens, I feel like.
yeah, definitely. But I freak out and it gets really existential, and I'm like, this is my life and it's halfway done. And it's not. It's just today. We're just here.
Isn't it like a thing where it's like your 30s is your 20s and your 40s is your 30s?
I think that's like, but we are living.
It doesn't really matter though.
But we are having kids later. Everyone's doing everything later. That
Mhm.
there is something to that. It used to be you were 40 and you were dropping your children at college, and then you were getting
Yeah.
your sports car. That was like the 70s parents. Like
Yeah.
I grew up, but now it's more like you're 50, 55. And then you're like, who am I? Who am I going to be now? I'm definitely, in that thing. Finishing the documentary, you're very busy with all this other stuff. You have 3 different projects you're working on. How do you organize your time? How do you do it?
Okay, that's such an interesting question. I'm constantly trying to become a person who has a morning routine. I think I'm going to be on my deathbed and be like, where is my morning routine? I would like to tell you that I have a gorgeous journal. This is the back of a check in which I have created my to-do list for the day.
So you're not in the 5 a.m. club, those life hacks, that kind of thing. But you also you are a full-time artist director. So you're not, no, you're not trying to squish it in and then go have a day job. You jumped off that cliff. Let's talk about that. Jumping off that cliff. You don't have a trust fund, like jumping off the cliff like a real normal human being who has real
That's
responsibility.
Yeah, that is where I feel like I can say with all of my confidence that I had no choice. And it was like, that's when I'm like, oh, like I rolled my eyes at that person that was like, I was compelled. But I think the pain of not doing it became great enough that I had no choice to be like, girl, if you don't do this, you're gonna die. And not to be super dramatic, but it was my soul's calling. And so it's like, yes, I'm reading a book called Atomic Habits because I'm in a constant lifelong search to become a person who has habits and great systems and wakes up and drinks hot lemon water and writes for 2 hours and then practices yoga and then like meditates. I'm never going to be her, but some days I will say this is a truth about me. With all of the disarray and the disorganization, I am extremely disciplined. So like I will get through all of these things on this list today. And if I don't, then I'll put it on the list for tomorrow, Normally I have a nice notebook, but I don't know where the notebook is. And I just have been in here since 10:30 in the morning. So I just used the back of this check.
What do you want to make next? I think is it a narrative or fiction or is it narrative?
There's 2 scripts and there is this documentary, which I think it has to be a documentary because it's based on actual real documents. I'll tell you guys, my paternal grandfather was a Jewish American soldier during World War II who was in the U.S. Army intelligence, and he liberated the concentration camp Dachau. And he didn't believe anyone would believe what he saw in the concentration camp, so he took with him a stack of photographic evidence into his pocket back to Brooklyn. My family has had a drawer of photos that my grandfather took from the Holocaust since 1945.
Never done anything with them. They've never been in the world.
That's insane. You've seen the photos? Are they insane?
Insane. And so it's too much to It's too much to unpack here, but it's an intense moment to be making this film for so many
Yes. Is this on your mother's side or your father's side?
Dad's dad. Dad's dad, but it's really a story about inherited trauma, which is a word that we get flung around a lot, but it really is something.
Yeah. Well,
so that's next.
Your grandfather was holding that in his head.
And then your father kept it for all of this time.
And then gave you a bundle.
A bundle. But guess what? I got the Ancestral. It's so good. This one thing I will say that is my most prized possession right now in my life is that I interviewed my grandfather before he died, and I have 2 hours of footage.
Oh my God. This is gold.
Gold.
I'm so excited. I really regret not recording my mother more. I have letters, but I really regret that I didn't record the talking. I just wasn't with the program yet.
Oh,
if you were advice to your younger self,
I think it's like just like I really feel like I tell this to like every single person who asks the question. Just do it. Like just do it. We don't have to worry about where it's going to end up or what it's going to look like. I really am like a believer in Anne Lamott's shitty first drafts in Bird by Bird and like just making the film, finding the friends, going out, shooting it, having the idea for the podcast, doing it, just doing it.
Like Nike.
Like Nike, like a very brilliant ad campaign that has probably made a lot of money in this time. Just do it. They were onto something.
Very true.
It's the shitty first drafts, particularly too, because I struggle with that so much. It's my friends who are so good at putting themselves out there, and I struggle with it so much. Like,
just do it.
Just do it.
More than just do it. It's like just do it imperfectly.
Yeah, just like
just do it shitty. Even people that are influencers, I was reading online stuff, they're like, post the dumb thing and then you can always take it down later. You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
I
fine.
love that. I love
Like,
it.
post when it's stupid, who cares? And then eventually it'll.
It's stupid or it's your niche.
Rachel,
I was like,
you are a
Thank you.
goddess. We are so grateful that you talked to us.
this is so fun. I want to come back. So just let me know.
Well,
I can
because
just,
we're
it's
gonna
so
need
fun.
a take two.
Yeah. Take two, because like there's more to discuss.
So much.
And I adore you both. And thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, friends. Love.